of Australia has increased its cash rate again, taking the wholesale cost of borrowing to its highest level in about 7 years. The aim of the increases is to tackle inflation, but data shows that consumer spending and economic growth are both still on the up. To discuss the state of the Australian economy, I'm joined by Jarden Australia's Chief Economist, Cacho. Carlos, are the RBA rate hikes simply not working?
Well, Madison, it's really just too early to tell. Economists often say monetary policy works with long and variable lags. And this time, the lags are longer than usual for two key reasons. First of all, households don't actually feel the cash flow impact of higher rates until about 2 to 3 months after the rate hike, which means households aren't going to be feeling the effects of the September rate hike until about December this year. So it does take a while to flow through in that regard. On top of that, we've had an unusually high share of fixed rates over the last year or so. And so about a third or more of mortgages are currently fixed, whereas normally it would be more like 10 to 15%. And that's going to mean some of the effect of tightening doesn't actually get felt until well into 2023.
And with Australia's labour market so tight, what impact is that having on wages?
Look, we're not seeing any slowdown in wages. The labour market is still incredibly strong. Unemployment's the lowest in over 50 years. Wages have been picking up. The official wages measure is at 2.7, which is the highest in a long time, almost a decade. And some of the leading indicators, things like SEEK has a new measure of advertised salaries, are pointing more towards wages growth at the moment, close to 4%. So we do still expect wages are going to accelerate in the months and year ahead.
The term the Great Resignation is becoming commonplace. Are you seeing that in Australia's economy? And what risk does that pose to employers?
It's definitely a challenge for employers. A key difference we're seeing in Australia versus the US is that we've actually seen an increase in labour supply. In the US, labour supply is still down from where it was pre-COVID. In Australia, it's at record highs, but we are seeing an increase in labour market churn or job switching. And that's generally associated with environments where the labour market is strong and wages are rising. So it creates more incentives for workers to change jobs. That is forcing employers to pay up to retain staff and to attract them as well. And so that's really one of the biggest challenges we're hearing from corporates at the moment is the ability to get labour. And in business surveys and also through reporting season, that's one of the key things that crops up again and again, both wage costs and just the availability of labour being the big challenge at the moment.
Let's talk about the housing market. The rate of house price declines across Australia seems to be gathering some pace. Is a housing correction underway? And if so, what could that mean for Australia's broader economy in the medium to long term?
Yeah, look, absolutely. A price correction is definitely underway at the moment. We've seen monthly house price falls, the largest in almost 40 years. Sydney prices are falling at an annualised pace of over 20%, and nationally it's around kind of 10 to 15%. We do expect peak to trough. We will see house prices nationally fall about 15 to 20%, but there is probably some downside risk to that if we don't see some support coming through from regulators. In terms of the impact on the economy, there's really two key channels you see house prices flow through. The first is through the consumer. So the household wealth effect. So households are feeling less wealthy, they're less willing to spend. And you also have the effect of turnover. So people are moving houses less, and moving houses is often a key event which causes people to buy new furniture, buy new appliances. So we're going to see that slow down. The other one is through construction. Generally, there's a very high correlation between new dwelling construction and house prices. And so we do expect we're going to see a pretty steep correction in housing construction. That said, the pipeline of work currently underway is very large. So it is probably still going to be another 6 months plus before we start to see that flow through the data. But it's definitely going to be a major drag on the economy into 2023.